Everything you're about to hear is just my assessment. It's my opinion, and not to be taken as fact.
A thorough and blunt assessment of the possibilities of how abusive Rod Parsley could be to his wife Joni Parsley, including alleged opiate addiction, drugged appearances, and rehab rumors. Rod Parsley is a powerful and polarizing figure in the American charismatic church world. For over 4 decades, he has led World Harvest Church and Valor Christian College while extending his influence through Breakthrough TV, conference platforms, and books. With each year, his persona has grown more theatrical, more controlling, and more deeply entangled with the machinery of prosperity gospel excess. He presents himself as a bold prophetic voice, a man of unwavering conviction, and a spiritual general leading an end-time army. But underneath the religious polish and made-for-TV sound bites lies a much darker pattern, one that many believe reveals a controlling, narcissistic, and possibly abusive man. His pulpit persona is laced with domination, fear tactics, emotional manipulation, and an obsession with hierarchy. These aren't isolated incidents. They form a pattern. And that pattern, when examined closely, raises serious questions, not just about how he treats his staff, congregants, or dissenters, but how he likely treats his wife. Joni Parsley is no ordinary spouse. She is not a woman quietly living in the background of a simple church family. She is the wife of a man who commands millions of dollars in assets, who orchestrates a staff under threat of NDAs and non-competes, who silences whistleblowers, and who appears to run his home with the same authoritative hand he uses from the stage. For decades, Joni has often appeared more like a prop than a partner, frequently silent, often detached, and at times visibly drugged or emotionally vacant during public appearances. The question must be asked, what is really happening behind the walls of the Parsley mansion? When we pull back the curtain, what did the patterns, testimonies, public behaviors, and internal whispers suggest about Rod Parsley's possible treatment of his wife? The first red flag is Rod's deeply authoritarian style. Whether in the pulpit or in board meetings, he consistently exerts top-down control. He surrounds himself with yes men. He doesn't tolerate correction. He preaches with threats disguised as prophecy. He's been known to shout down critics, mock dissenters, and punish those who leave his system. This is not merely a strong personality. This is textbook control behavior. In such systems, the wife is rarely spared. Joni Parsley, though legally tied to millions in real estate assets, does not move like a woman with freedom. While she technically owns the lavish Parsley residence at 1072 Zero Allen Road and is listed on deeds tied to commercial properties, hunting land, and former holdings of Rod's late mother Ellen, these assets appear more protective of Rod's brand than expressions of Joni's independence. Yes, she has a blog hosted on rodparsley.com, but the tone is curated, docile, and shallow, void of real independence or authentic personal conviction. It feels more like an obligation than an outlet. It's the kind of platform created for optics, not liberation. She does not appear to lead ministries of her own. She is not listed as a decision maker on Valor Christian College's board. She does not speak at conferences. Her moments on stage often appear forced, sedated, and emotionally distant. Her eyes are glassy. Her smile is frozen. Her speech is sometimes slurred. She doesn't exude joy or confidence. She seems muted, constrained, and possibly medicated. It's been alleged that Joni has long battled an opiate addiction. Her public appearances lend credence to this claim, with some services showing her visibly disoriented. Her long-term absences from the stage have led many to believe she attended rehab more than once, but this was never acknowledged, never explained, never addressed with transparency or humility. Instead, the silence around Joni has been deafening. If these allegations are true, they raise even more disturbing implications. Because opioid dependency, especially among high-profile ministry wives, is rarely the result of rebellion. It is the result of long-term emotional suffocation. It is the byproduct of being trapped in an image-driven marriage where appearance matters more than emotional health. In such marriages, addiction becomes anesthesia. Pills become the only voice a silenced woman has. Joni may have numbed herself not to escape God, but to escape Rod. Rod Parsley's obsession with image likely shaped how her addiction was handled. It is entirely possible, even likely, that her struggle was framed as a spiritual weakness rather than a medical crisis. Instead of being offered grace and help, She may have been scolded behind closed doors, threatened with exposure, or forced into secrecy. It wouldn't be surprising if she was sent to rehab under the condition that she return in silence and gratitude. That is not healing. That is coercion wrapped in religious language. Emotionally, it's clear Rod treats Joni as an extension of his brand. Her physical presence next to him at times feels more like a photo op than a partnership. Her voice is rarely heard. Her perspective is never championed. Her soul seems muted. This is emotional abuse through erasure. She is publicly visible but personally absent. Her individuality has been swallowed up by Rod's empire. That's not submission. That's subjugation. Verbally, if Rod speaks to Joni like he does to his congregation and staff, the emotional abuse would be relentless. His preaching tone is often condescending, mocking, and domineering. He uses fear and shame as tools of manipulation. Former insiders allege he speaks with disdain behind closed doors, saying things like, "Don't embarrass me again," or "You better get yourself together before Sunday." This is not love. This is intimidation. Financially, while Joni may be listed on deeds, she does not exhibit autonomy. She has no income-generating role. She has no public business. She is financially dependent, despite having her name on major assets. That is the illusion of power, not the reality. Her financial standing, like her voice, is curated to protect Rod, not herself. If she ever wanted to leave, the web of control, spiritual, legal, financial, emotional, would be a fortress. Sexually, there is a reasonable concern for coercion. Rod's interpretation of marriage is steeped in patriarchal theology. When a man repeatedly quotes scriptures like, "Your body is not your own," without equally emphasizing sacrificial love, it sets the stage for marital intimacy void of consent. A woman who is emotionally silenced and possibly chemically numbed is not in a position to freely give herself. In such a marriage, intimacy may become an obligation, not a choice. And when resistance is met with guilt trips or Bible verses, that is spiritual RAPE culture, not covenant love. Physically, there is no direct evidence of assault, but abuse is not limited to fists. When a man yells, throws objects, and slams doors, or uses proximity as a weapon, that is physical intimidation. And Rod is infamous for rage-filled outbursts from the pulpit. His entire demeanor is one of dominance, fury, and assertion. If that's a show he gives the public, it's hard to imagine the calm tenderness of Christ guiding his private interactions. The truth is, abuse doesn't always leave bruises. Sometimes it leaves hollow eyes, forced smiles, trembling voices, and medicated compliance. And when you look at Joni Parsley on stage, those signs are present. The woman behind the pearls and pageantry looks like someone trying to survive. Her addiction, if real, is not shameful. It is a blinking red light that something behind the scenes is deeply, terribly broken. Her silence is not submission. It is the aftermath of spiritual suffocation. Her assets are not freedom. They are the golden bars of a well-decorated cage. Rod Parsley doesn't have to strike her to abuse her. He only has to drown her identity under the weight of his own. He only has to preach submission louder than he practices sacrifice. He only has to convince the world that because she stands beside him, she's free, while doing everything in his power to make sure she never truly is. Until the church stops idolizing pulpit charisma and starts interrogating the character behind it, women like Joni will continue to be exalted as first ladies while living like last priority prisoners. Their pain will be spiritualized, their silence will be sanctified, and their slow collapse will be interpreted as divine obedience instead of what it really is, spiritual abuse dressed in designer clothes. Joni Parsley is not just a woman with property. She is not just a smiling face at her husband's side. She may be a woman drowning in trauma, coated in silence, and desperately in need of a voice that isn't scripted for her. And Rod Parsley, far from the courageous truth teller he claims to be, may very well be the reason she has none.